Okay, welcome everyone to the November. Gee, this year's blown by. The November NMRAX. We got another fun-filled feature for you here today. We've got a few people starting up. We've got Ralph here ready to go, and Speed's at the bottom of the helix. And Speed's going to be your host for this morning. So I'll hand it over to Speed. Here you go.
Thank you, Martin. Welcome back to another edition of NMRAX. I would like to tell you guys about the breakout room. I think it's werribee.com/MRL -Aussies. So where you can meet the clinician afterwards in either a specific room or just in the general room over there. So today we have our very first NMRAX clinician ever giving us another clinic. This time he's 6. He has modeled everything from 1/24 scale down to HO scale, which a little bit of his current layout is shown behind him. In the wider modeling world, with all of his digital endeavors, he is a little bit better known as the Mud Father. So please welcome, as almost all our presenters tonight, from Ontario, Canada, Ralph Renzetti.
Good afternoon, guys, ladies and gentlemen, and kids of all ages. Today's presentation I'm going to do as part of a video I found on YouTube. And I thought it was brilliant the way this guy did this, but he did not explain how to do anything. It was just a video. So I played around at it and I managed to get it to work for me both in 1/24 scale, as Speed mentioned, all the way down to HO. And by the way, I do have elements on my layout that are N scale as well, Speed. So let me just share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so the thing that I'm doing is chipping paint with wax paper. And you're probably going to laugh at this. It's wax paper and Vaseline, or petroleum jelly, as some people know it. And as you can see, that picture is the results of how it turns out. So the tools you're going to use, and I haven't tried this on plastic, so I don't know if it'll work on plastic. I can't see why it wouldn't, but it would have to be plastic strips. Like in basswood, you have basswood siding, clapboard, board and batten, that sort of thing, single strips. Solid wall of plastic. I'm not sure whether it would look right, but it's worth a try. But I won't be trying it. So then you're also going to need Vaseline and petroleum jelly and regular kitchen wax paper. Any brand, doesn't matter. You need a wire brush. I have a stainless steel brush that's about 1.5 inches of bristle, and it's about a 1/2 inch wide. And I use it for my modeling when I'm working on wood projects. Also, you're going to need a wire pen. Some people have seen them with the fiberglass filament. Others, there's a brass one, and there's also a stainless steel one. And that's great for distressing the wood. This is one of the things that we do when you build fine scale. You distress the wood, and then you age it. So the other thing you're going to need is a card file. Card file is a short-haired wire brush. The bristles on it are about 1/4 inch in length. And the card file is about 1.5 inches wide by probably 6 inches. And it's used for cleaning metal files for when you're doing metal work and you're filing an edge or something and the metal gets stuck in the teeth of the file. The card file cleans it out. Well, it works great for working on this kind of thing. So then you need a number 11 blade in an X-Acto knife. I use the smaller X-Acto knives. You can actually get the wider one. I don't know what the blade number is that goes into that. But the knife of your choice, start with a clean blade, a new blade. Then your choice of paint. I use the Vallejo paints. I use for part of it I used Vallejo Air. The other part I used what do they call it? Model colors, Vallejo model colors. Well, the Vallejo colors, the paint itself is it's an acrylic vinyl-based paint, and I think that's what makes this work so well, at least in my opinion. The other thing you're going to need is some Tamiya gloss or semi-gloss, or you could even use matte. The numbers on the gloss and semi-gloss, gloss is X22 and the semi-gloss is X35. Your favorite brand of stain for your model railroading. I use Hunterline products. Some people use shoe dye that they mix with alcohol. That's all fine as long as you can stain your wood. So there's the products that I just talked about. And at the bottom, that little thing the knives are sitting on is the card file. Model color paints, Tamiya paints, wax paper, Vaseline, and so on. That Euro tool that you see there with the yellow handle has brass wire in it as well. You can get, I think the other one is blue, it could be green, has stainless steel brush in it. And I use it to add grain to the wood. So the other things you're going to need is, I also have on hand, and I used it, I used the Tamiya clears as well as I tried it a second time with the Artist Liquitex and Winsor Newton products, and it worked equally as well. So I stain my boards. I have a nice brush that's it's about a 1/2 inch wide, small tub of Vaseline, and wax paper that it's sitting on. Now I do it. I have a round turntable that's about 14 inches in diameter. So I take the wax paper because you're going to need approximately 1 foot of it, and I tape it down so that it's down nice and snug, and just in preparation. So this is the old school type of weathering. You take your basswood, you stain it, you distress the wood with whether you use a hacksaw blade perpendicular to the length of the board, sort of twisting it as you go down from top to bottom, or you can use your razor saw that has a low tooth count, just something to uh, represent grain better than what you see in the basswood by itself. And then you paint your color on. And with your wire brush, you take your color off, and whatever sticks, that's the result you have. Well, with this new process, it's not as drawn out. The first 2 steps apply, but the second one, the results are dramatic as far as I see. Now I managed to do it a second time to get it 2 different colors on the same board, but you may only want to have one. So the process is the same: blank board, stain it, distress it, and then do this process with the wax paper. So on a clean, dry, flat surface, fasten a 10 by 12 inch piece of wax paper. It doesn't have to be a turntable like I have, just on a flat surface. I find if I fasten it down, I don't have to contend with it sliding all over the table. And if you just happen to breathe the wrong way, you send it halfway across the table. Anyway, that's heavy breathing, just in case. Make sure that it's fastened down for sure. let's see, we distress the wood and the stain. And once you've done that, and you got your dark stain and everything on there, and you've chewed up the edges and maybe the bottom, what you want to consider the bottom end, add a coat of matte medium to seal it. A good liberal coat of matte medium to seal it. If you don't do that, this process won't work properly. The idea is to seal the surface of the paint or the surface of the board so that the next step doesn't soak in. So now this is what I consider the fun part. And when you're model railroading, to me, the best part of it is when you get your hands dirty. You're right in there working on part of your model. Well, this gives you that opportunity. You dip a finger into the Vaseline, petroleum jelly, and you smear it all over the wax paper. Make sure you got it all coated. Then you take a clean flat brush and you can add your paint. And I add a fair amount of paint. Don't be chintzy. Um, this stuff, just like when you add water to an oil or a wax surface, the water beads up. That's what's going to happen initially. So when you put your paint now on top of the Vaseline, you take your brush and you spread it out. Go one way and then go in the opposite, in a perpendicular direction and then back again. And you'll find that it will relax enough to settle down and give you a surface to put your boards on. So now with what I use a number 2 or a 3 round brush in gloss media or semi-gloss, doesn't matter. Um, you dab randomly all over the board. So it's not complete, it's not covered, it's speckled with gloss media. You repeat it until the wood strips are all on the wax paper. And once you put that stuff, the gloss on the board, you physically take that board and turn it face down on top of the painted wax paper. Press it down, leave it there. Go to the next board, do the same thing. Um, I then, just because I wasn't sure when I did this how long it would take to transfer or to dry. So I placed the second piece of wax paper on the top. I put a book on top of it and I went to bed. Next morning, I got up, took the book off, the wax paper, and I started peeling the boards off. And I was amazed at the way it turned out. I even after doing it the second time, it it's nice. It's actually good to see the way it turns out. The first time I did it with the white. Um, so each board now has where the gloss was, picks up the paint off the wax paper and the rest stays blank. So then you take a toothbrush or your wire brush and you just brush off the loose ends because it does sort of have loose edges and you want to clean them up a bit. If you want to do it a second time, you repeat some of those steps over again. You take the boards that are with the white and you make sure that you have a new piece of wax paper with a new color on it, and you dab your matte medium, or pardon me, the gloss medium on the board and then put it down on the new paint color randomly. Or the other method you could use is just flicking the brush, putting the gloss medium on the brush and flick the tip of the brush and let it spatter onto the board. And you'll get the result with a dual color. So there's a short video here and you'll see what it looks like. Where did we go?
Wow. Ralph, I'm going to ask you the most important question first. How does Ralph make it look so easy?
Practice, practice, practice. After doing it the second time, it was a lot easier than experimenting the first time, not knowing what you're doing. So knowing what you're doing is it's half the battle, and that's why it looks so easy.
Cool. So there's a lot of questions here about what kind of paint. Pan pastels.
Pan pastels are not paint.
Someone put that into
They're
to mess
chalk.
with you. Yeah.
And I know who put that in there.
Shh,
That
don't tell.
had to be Marty.
So will it work with craft paint?
You can use a craft paint. If I'm not saying it's going to work like this. All I've done is I've used Vallejo paints. That's the only one I've experimented with, and I'm really happy with the results. I don't see why it wouldn't work with the craft paint. It just might not work as well.
Okay. And would that cover craft acrylic, low quality versus high quality artistic
Yes,
acrylic paints?
yes. So and as far as the varnishes go, because of everything that I do with my weathering, I use the Tamiya clear gloss, semi-gloss, and flat. I also use dull coat. Um, but dull coat I get in a 2-ounce bottle, and I mix it 50-50 with lacquer thinner. By doing that, that 2-ounce bottle gives me 10 spray cans, the same amount that you would get in 10 spray cans.
Okay, okay.
So that's what when I'm done and everything's all done and finished, my final coat is dull coat.
Okay, someone asked, would adding a crackle medium to the paint help to add to the effect?
You can experiment. That's how I experiment, but I don't think it will help because there are, uh, well, if I can show you some boards, um, you can see the fact that they are already crackled. It's a close-up picture of it. So as the paint dries, once it gets into the atmosphere sort of thing, because it was covered before,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of dried overnight, it stayed flexible, as you saw in the video. It was sort of peeled off, sort of elasticy, sort of. Well, as it dries, the crackles start to show, and you can see it in that.
That looks really good.
So then
Wow.
if I, there's a little closer. And there's with the two colors. So you can see there is crackle there. You know, like there's the vertical one that went along the line of the grain that I put in. So I really don't think you need the crackle paint, but I'm not saying don't. Give it a try. There's the doors.
So
And you can see on the bottom of the door there, that's done with the card file and the wire brush.
cool.
Just don't use balsa wood. Balsa wood is too soft. And if you try and distress it with a wire brush, you will literally shred it.
Okay, next question. In HO, 1x6 boards are 1/16 wide. How does it
Yep.
come out in HO? Well,
Okay.
it's an HO.
I never took it down to HO, but what I did do is I took it down to, what do you call it? 1/8 of an inch. And 1/8 of an inch, I figured on a like on a barn or whatever, the board is more than 6 inches. So
Yes.
I did 1/8 inch boards. And if I can show you that, it's not going to show very well, but that's 1/8 inch boards. And there's the 1/24 scale board beside it. So it does scale down. It's just you have to be careful how you do it. Make sure that you put the wood grain in the wood. And that's the sort of I mean, you can play around all you want. The thing is, experiment, get comfortable with what you're doing, and see what happens.
You think we can do it with scribed basswood sheets?
Well, you could probably do it with basswood sheets, but it won't look as good as if individual boards, because if the paint doesn't have a separation where the board lines are, then it's not going to look right.
So the same for a complete wall.
Yes. That's why I question doing it in plastic.
And then the last question I see here, is there any issue with the boards warping?
No. As a matter of fact, when I was putting the brush, the toothbrush, and then a wire brush over them, the paint was actually flexible. And now that the paint is cured, because it's not a solid layer of paint, it's not pulling that surface up to warp it. Plus, it's an acrylic. It's not an oil-based paint. Now, in order to darken this stained board itself after you're done, it's best to go over the wall with some sort of mineral-based stain, so that you can enhance it or make, like weather it. I have the side of the barn. I can show you what it looks like. Now, all I did there was I oversprayed it with a light dust color, and then I was going to do the stain, and the stain would, and you'd have the same thing in nature. You go and look at this stuff. You got a parged wall that brick are showing through. you're going to have stains running down from the ledge where the board
Mhm.
stops. And then you're going to have even more coming from the bottom of those where the bricks are exposed. Some comes down the flat part of the parging, some comes down from the bricks. When it's all done, it looks natural. And by having the random boards, there's no, it doesn't look phony or forced.
Well, since I don't see any other questions here, how about you tell us how you made the brick pattern? And it looks like you covered it up with something.
I did. I have a brick mold that I use. Um, and then I used spackle on top of it. And I tried to keep a nice clean edge. You can see in that small spot right in here, the clean edge where it looks like it's just broken off.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I tried to do for the whole thing. What I also did, because I use plaster of Paris, I don't use hydrocal. Hydrocal I find is too hard for what I do. So I took those small pieces of stone and I ran them on a piece of sandpaper until they were kind of thin. So I didn't have to put a whole batch of spackle on.
So where is this building heading?
It's heading to a competition. As soon as we open up here and have competitions, this is my barn find.
Oh, you got to show more.
Here's another little trick I can show you is this tarp. Like I spent a month detailing the inside of this car to the exact replica of the car. And then I covered it with a tarpaulin. And I
Really?
thought to myself, you idiot, you know? But anyway, you can see some of the detail I put in here around the engine compartment, the fittings and so on. So this is just a piece of tissue paper, Kleenex.
Uh-huh.
And I put I have these little paper clips or clothespins that my wife has for her embroidery, just to hold the paper
Mm-hmm.
down. I sprayed it with a mist of water first, soapy water, like a wet water. And then I came back with a 50-50 mix of white glue and water and just painted it on. I folded the tarp up so it was gathered around the back edge there. And of course, to make sure it didn't stick to the car, I wrapped the car in saran wrap.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure whether it was going to stick, but I wanted to make sure it didn't. So I put the saran wrap. And when it was done, all said and done, the saran wrap, except for where it was gathered, the saran wrap came off. And then you can trim the tarpaulin to match. So once I put it on the floor, I managed to get certain bends in it and so on. And then I painted it because it came off as a hard shell. Now I could hold it in my hand and paint it. So in this barn find, there's a whole bunch of items. Um, this barrel, I couldn't find a 124 scale barrel, so I made one from flat stock. That shelf you saw in the previous slide is here. And on top of that, there's going to be 3 paint cans. And when the paint cans tip over, of course, one of them is a bucket with a brush in it. One falls down on top of the Coke machine. So everything in this diorama is either handcrafted, like scratch built, or 3D printed. So the crates, these two are 3D printed, and they're painted with my watercolor pencils, which was the last NMRA X that I did. The Coke, I mean, what can you do to a Coke container? It's plastic in real life. But the machine itself, it's painted with alclad paint, stainless steel color. and then red Tamiya, and of course white on the letters. But
Wow.
where I wanted to show some wear, I took Windex. That's red. It's flat color. It's not gloss. It's flat. Take Windex on a brush and you start rubbing it to where you have normal wear, that it wears the paint off to the steel. And then we have the paint buckets. So there's your stainless steel finish on the paint buckets. Something else I had to make. I used my wife's LaserJet printer to print off labels.
Cool.
And I tried to do an experiment what the paint would look like. So I took a piece of 10 thou plastic and painted it in the shape of the spill that I wanted,
Uh-huh.
and down here. And I thought, this looks great. So when I did it for real, I actually used it as a template, painted the line, or painted the paint up to the line, and sat the paint bucket in it, and down in here, same thing. That barrel is also done with watercolor pencils, weathered. So my barn find, and oh, this is another little thing. When I go to Costco and my wife gets containers and so on, anything that's in a blister pack that has a flat surface, I save the flat blister, right? The flat
Yeah, yeah,
packing,
yeah.
the clear. So that's clear acetate that I sat and cut out each one of those teeth. I carved the handles out of wood, and I used a straight pin to do the rivets. So now in the first movie of Back to the Future, or maybe it's the second, the one where he climbs the clock tower to get power from the lightning bolt.
Yes.
So there's the rod that was attached to the car. It's on the rafters in the barn, along with a bird's nest. The block and tackle was scratch built as well. Some old fenders I had laying around, I just rusted them, along with a barrel ring. Actually, the barrel ring is the top of a prescription bottle. So there's the Coke machine with the paint on it. Um, Jack Daniels. You know why Jack Daniels comes in square bottles, right?
No.
So it doesn't roll off your dashboard.
Do you get any sleep at night?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Go to bed at 2 a.m. Get up at 10 a.m. So I get enough. So here's the door with the chip paint. The hinges are made from aluminum foil. Uh, they're straight pin heads as screws. The nail holes are filled with telephone wire to simulate nails. And then, of course, the rusting. The padlock is a staple bent to the shape I wanted and fitted into a piece of plastic that I got from a part sprue and just shaped it. The last part of oh, there's a better picture of it. Of course, being Canadian, I had to throw in the hockey stick. And these hockey sticks, when I was growing up, were made by a company called Hespler, which was an indigenous run company.
So
So
was that in the movie?
no, that was in my lifetime. So
Oh,
that's in there.
I just want to make sure they don't deduct points for you adding a hockey stick into.
No. Actually, I was going to put something else in with the hockey stick, but I didn't do it. But that's okay. So there's
Oh,
one
there
of
you
the
go.
characters that I'm putting in. That's Wally from the movie Wally that I scratch built. Um, there's the layout with different parts in it. And these corrugated metal pieces, they're from a cookie wrapper,
Oh, wow.
package of cookies that we got. And I looked at it and I thought, that's a larger scale corrugated metal. That'll work fine.
Anything special about that motorcycle?
No, it's just a space filler.
Okay.
I was going to go through the process of cutting all the spokes out and putting real wire spokes in, and I thought, no, I don't need that. I don't need that right now. So again, the saw blade is another piece of acetate. As we move down. So I start to bring in a bunch of movie themes into this as well. So you have Wall-E, you have Star Wars,
Uh-huh.
Minions, and the license plates that are up on top. These all this whole diorama has either movie or television shows in these license plates. So the first one here is Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is Smokey and the Bandit.
Yep.
The third one, if not everybody's going to know this, is Car 54. Where are you?
Okay.
The Lin 274 is Gone in 60 Seconds. Eleanor. And then Robin is Magnum PI, the original Magnum PI.
Yes.
Stark 1 is Iron Man. Stark 11 and 4. This one here is from Biff's Mercury convertible in the first movie when he got dumped with the manure. And then, of course, from the first movie, there's Out of Time, which was the first plate they had on it. Jurassic Park. One of these I can't remember, but this one here is from Bates Motel. That wasn't Psycho was the name of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what all is in this. So I have 2 Minions, the license plates, and all that.
Unbelievable.
And that 1/24 scale. So the
How
only actual model is the car.
How big is the whole thing roughly?
About 12, 13 inches square.
Okay.
But again, it all comes down to there's the doors. The back of the doors are with the white finish. And I stained it with the AK finishes on top of that. The mineral-based stains.
Amazing.
So that's where I spend my time. I model all over the place. I have this stack of boxes behind me is 40, I think it's 49 N scale locomotives for weathering and sound cards. My own layout. I've been working on my barge scene that's part of Slocan Lake in British Columbia.
Cool. So one day you'll give us a layout tour?
Actually, yeah.
Cool.
There's a video on YouTube right now that Chris Lyon did a 2-part video with me sitting right here. And the second part is the layout tour of that was what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe more.
Pretty neat.
But
Well,
doing all this other stuff for the models and doing locomotives for other people, my layout has been suffering. So just lately, I've been doing work on it.
don't worry. Many of us know the feeling.
Yeah.
So, well, Ralph, that was amazing. You know, the first part and the second part. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think Marty wants to talk to us about the breakout rooms. If you have any further questions for Ralph.
He's on mute.
Of course.
I shouldn't be on mute now.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so we've that was another brilliant clinic by Ralph. That chipping paint effect. I don't know. Sometimes if he's actually shown us pictures of real distressed doors or the model. It's it looks so real. But, anyway.
I showed you this stuff, so you can see that it's in my hand.
I did. I know, but it just, as someone says, said in the chat, I think, how come Ralph makes it look so easy? That's, yeah. Anyway,
Practice.
as Speed mentioned, we've got the breakout rooms happening this weekend again. So you can see up on the screen here, that's what the room looks like. It's at wearby.com, MRL-Aussies, and we've posted the link, I think, in the chat. So I think Ralph's going to head over to the room.
I am, but don't forget the slash, Marty.
That's right. Don't forget the slash.
.com/MRL.
There you go. See, we've got to get the guests to actually do the host's job here because they can't get it. They can't get it right. You're lucky I didn't start the show 15 minutes early, Ralph. I mean, we could have been
like the very first one.
Yeah, like the very, very first one. That was just a warm up. Someone told me that there was a time frame that we had to run it in, but I didn't realize that was actually fixed. I thought, Anyway, here's the room. It's really easy to get into. Once you get to the room, there you can see there's a few people sitting down there at the moment. Maybe we can get one of those to demonstrate the room. I think Andy Ambrose is there. If Andy clicks over into Ralph's room, you'll see the A will move across to Ralph's little group there. Ralph's going to head over there now. So anybody that has any questions or likes, you can jump in there and you can have a conversation with him. The beauty about this is you can do that while you still have the stream going. So you don't have to drop out of the stream. You can come over to the breakout rooms at any time. In fact, I think last time we had a bunch of people in there actually sitting there watching the stream, talking to each other, like they were all in the one room. So anyway, the wonders of modern technology. It's amazing what Google can do, isn't that right, Speed?
Indeed.
I'll see you over there, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ralph.
You're welcome.
So I guess it's time to get the next presenter in here and close this down. There's the link. The links are in the chat for the room. That's what it looks like. Everybody head on over there. I think Ralph's there now. And just click the Join Group button. So where you see it says Join Group, just click that and you'll be in a private room with Ralph. That sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it? Anyhow, what do you reckon, Speed? We go and get things ready for the next clinic and we'll see everyone in 5 to 10.
Please bring the elevator music.
Hey, this is Tony Cook. I want you to do a couple of things for me here real quick while you're watching and enjoying this NMRA channel. Subscribe, like, and click the bell icon. That's 3 things. How many things did I say? Well, do these 3 things for me, and then you'll always keep up to date with all this fun stuff on the NMRAX. Thanks for watching.